Hey, good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're learning Maseches Sanhedrin Daf Tzadi Aleph, and we are starting about 3/4 of the way down on Tzadi Amud Beis. We're halfway through the wide lines. In my Gemara, the first word on the line is Kula Mesim, and we're starting with the words Shalu Romim es Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya. So if you want to just take a moment to find that, again, Tzadi Amud Beis, about 15 lines up from the bottom. Shalu Romim es Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya. So the Romans asked him, Minayin she'HaKadosh Baruch Hu mechayim esim v'yodea ma she'asid lihyos. How does HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or from where do we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can resuscitate the dead? And from where do we know that he knows the future? Amar lahu. So Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya said back to the Romans, Tarvayu min mikra hazeh. Both of them are from one pasuk. Shne'emar, as the pasuk tells us in Sefer Dvarim Lamed Aleph, Vayomer Hashem Moshe hincha shochev im avosecha v'kama amazeh v'zana. So what do we see from over here? He says to Moshe, hincha shochev im avosecha. You're going to lie, you're going to die and be buried with them, and also become. You're also going to get up again. So says the Gemara, Vidilma v'kam ha'am hazeh v'zana. Perhaps there's a comma before the word v'kam. Maybe it's really Vayomer Hashem Moshe hincha shochev im avosecha comma and v'kama am hazeh v'zana. And the people will get up and do something licentious and inappropriate. Amar lahu. So Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya says back to the Romans, great question. Nakutu miha palga biyadaichu. At least I can answer half of your questions, one of your two questions. The Yodea Masha Asid Lihios, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu clearly knows what is around the bend. It's Mar Nami, the Gemara says. We have the Amoraim talking now. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Reb Shimon ben Yochai. Same questions that the Romans asked Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya. So here it quotes it in the Amoraim without the question that the Romans asked. And here it seems like this pasuk functions as a proof both for the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can see the future, whatever that means by him, and that there is Tchias HaMesim. 10 lines from the bottom. Tzadi Amud Beis Tanya, the Brisa writes, Amar Rabbi Eliezer, bar Rabbi Yossi, B'davar zeh ziyafti sifrei minim. With the following, I was able to forge, or probably, debunk the sifrei minim. Shayu omrim ein tchias hamesim min haTorah. They would say that there is no tchias hamesim min haTorah. And just as a reminder, that was the beginning of our perek of people who don't have a chelek in olam haba. Amarti lehem ziyaftem toraschem v'lo he'elesem biyedchem klum. You made your Torah forged, he said to them. Right? So this is Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yossi talking to the minim, talking to the apikorsim. V'lo he'elesem biyedchem klum, and you didn't get anything out of it. She'atem omrim, you guys say tchias hamesim min Torah, but harehu omer he kares tikanes anefesh shahi avonaba. And avonaba le'emas. When will it be that there's avonaba? Lav le'olam haba. Obviously, there's multiple worlds. So the haraya that there has to be more than one world. So Amar le Rav Papa le'abaye le'ma lehu tarvaihu mehi kares tikares. Maybe we can learn everything from hikares tikares, meaning hikares is olam hazeh, tikares is olam haba. And says the Gemara, Inhu havu amr le dibra Torah kalashim b'nei adam. Really, that can't be because they had a drasha that, and it's true according to some, as we'll soon see, that the language of hikares tikares is dibra Torah kalashim b'nei adam. This is a Gemara that we've seen in this Masechta before and throughout Shas. There is a debate. Was the Torah written as an unforgiving book of law, and every word was hand chiseled and hand picked and handcrafted? Or no, that maybe the book was written with an element of diplomacy, an element of familiarity, that the Torah speaks in a way that we speak. This is subject to a machlokes, ketanoi, 7-8 lines from the bottom. Tikares, according to one shita, hikares balamazet, hikares balamabadi, Rabbi Akiva, Amin Rabbi Shmuel, halo kvar es Hashemu megadeh v'nichrasa. We already know about this. And it says v'nichrasa again. So we have hikares, tikares, and v'nichrasa. V'chishlosha olamim yesh. Are there 3 worlds? Not every time that it says kares are we able to say a drasha that there's another world. Ela v'nichrasa ba'olam hazeh, hikares la'olam haba, and hikares, dibra Torah kalashim b'nei adam. Here we see a machlokes tanaim that again expresses this possibility that the Torah was written in a way that was lashon b'nei adam. However, Bein Rabbi Shmuel and Bein Rabbi Akiva, none of them dealt with the words avon naba. Those two shitas in the brisa that we just learned were not referred at all. It wasn't even discussed. So avon naba, my avdilay, says the Gemara, lichadetanya, yachol, that if a person's chayiv kares, that afilu asa tshuva, he'd still be chayiv kares. Baruch Hashem, thank God this is not the case. Tamalam avon naba. Lo marti al bizman avon naba. I only say that you are going to be chayav kares if you don't do tshuva, which is why we should periodically say vidui to make sure that if we are chayav kares rachmana litzlan, that we can pasha just ask for forgiveness. We can say vidui and klap an al chet and we're done. We're good to go. The art scroll has this Anu Hashem chatasi avisiu vashati befanecha miyom heyosi al ha'adam v'chulei. If you look there in the art scroll, it has this text where we can do some kind of vidui. Good. So says the Gemara, Sha'ala Cleopatra. Who knew? I don't know if this is the one from the theater or the one from history, but that's what the Gemara is discussing. What? That's correct. Malchus, correct. Sha'ala Cleopatra Malchus Rav Meir. So obviously this is in the times of the Tanaim, right after the time of Rabbi Akiva. So says the Gemara, Cleopatra the queen asks a question to Rav Meir, 3 lines from the bottom of Tzadi Amud Beis. Amra, she said, Yodana dechaye shichvi. I know that there will be life for those who are lying down. Namely, I know that there will be tchias hamesim. Dichsiv, v'yatzitzu me'ir ke'esev ha'aretz. That they will sprout like the grass in the ground. Elek shehein omdin, her only question was, were they going to be clothed or not? Elekshein omdin arumin o bilvushehen omdin. How will they come out of the ground? Will they be undressed or will they be dressed? We are makbid in halacha to bury people in clothes, to bury them in tachrichen. It's one of the reasons why people wear a kittel on the Yamim Noraim and other circumstances. The Maharal Miprag writes this, that the kittel reminds us of the Yom HaMisa. It's like a standing reminder. People get buried in, it's a little bit of a different garment, I believe. I don't think it's actually a kittel. I think tachrichin are slightly different, but they're white, they're simple garments, and that is what people get buried in. So that was her question: is when they resuscitate, when they come out of the ground and they're standing up like a blade of grass, are they dressed? Are they not dressed? That wouldn't have been my first question. I don't know. If I was going to ask a question, that would not have been it. Sounds like a very vanity-oriented question. Yeah, I would have asked so many other questions. Where's my family members? I would have asked a lot of different things. So says the Gemara, Rav Meir was unfazed. Amar Allah, he says to Cleopatra Malkasa, Kal v'chomer mechita. I said, I can make a kal v'chomer from wheat. When the seed of wheat is put into the ground, it is done so with nothing covering it. All seeds go in the ground with no covering. And when it does come out of the ground, yotza, it's become a levush, and it has many layers. It has the flour at the end of it, and the seed is covered, because we know from Hilchos Shabbos, when we're doing zoreh, when we're doing winnowing, we have to first break it, the chaff away from the seed. A lot of layers. Tzadikim shenikbarim bilvusheim. Then a tzaddik who's always dressed in his clothes, alachas kama v'kama. Such a strange dialogue. Last line on Tzadi Amud Beis. Says the Gemara, Amar le Kesar le Rabban Gamliel. Amrisu, you guys say deshach v'chaye. You guys say that the people who are laying in the earth chaye, that they become alive. But how? Hahavu afra. After a certain point of decomposition, and we know this, a body can become so brittle that at the touch it can become dust. Now that takes a very, very long time. The skeleton is a very, very hard material. What's it made out of? Calcium, a lot of calcium, basically. Of course, Pasha, yeah, obviously. So the Gemara says that it's made out of a very hard material, but by the time that it actually powders is many, many decades, I presume, down the road, under normal circumstances. Maybe it's only true in Chicago. I don't know what it's like in other places. It's cold here. It says the Gemara, "Ha'avu afra ve'afra mikachai." How can you resuscitate someone who's currently dust? So says the Gemara, Amra le birote. The daughter of this, the daughter responds. Whose daughter? Take a look at Rashi. Amr le birote de Kesar, the Rabban Gamliel. This wasn't Rav Meir's daughter. This was the Kesar's daughter, the Caesar's daughter. She says, Rav Meir, I've got this. What did she say? She said, Shavke. She said, don't worry. Ve'ana mehadranale. I'm going to respond to my father. And now the daughter, there's a triangle of people. Rav Meir is sitting there smirking that the daughter is going to probably give a good answer if she's interrupting. Shnei yotzrim yesh be'irenu. There are two people who are yotzrim, they're potters. They know how to make pottery. Echad yotzer min hamayim, ve'echad yotzer min hatit. A person, one of them can create clay from pure water, which is miraculous. Ve'echad yotzer min hatit, and the other can create from clay, from dirt. So she says to her father, Eze mehen meshubach. Which one of these is more impressive? Which one of these is more praiseworthy? Omar le, the Caesar says back to his daughter, Zeshe yoter min hamayim. The one who created it from water, Pashat, that's miraculous. That's not normal. So Amra le min hamayim tsar. We were created from water. And this is not actually what it means. We weren't created from water. But what it means is that we were created from zera. We were created from basically just genetic material that was sufficient to create a person. Minatid lo kol shekain. If there were to be mamashos, when the bodies are in the ground, even if they've decomposed to the point of being powdered, at the end of the day, that's more than what the human being was created with. So if the human being was created with less, then you shouldn't be shocked by tchias hamesim. And similarly, I don't know if I read the last. Minatit lo kol shekain. Yes, I did. Debei Rabbi Shmuel Tana, and there they gave a similar answer as well. We're 6 lines down on the top of Tzadi Aleph Amid Aleph, and we're going to really try and cover some ground to the bottom of Tzadi Aleph Amid Beis. We'll have to stop at the 9:30 mark. We'll get as far as we can. Says the Gemara, Tana kal v'chomer miklis chuches. Look, let's talk about glass. Maklis chuches she'amelan beruach basar v'dam, that they were made with the wind of basar v'dam, nishberu yeshlan takana. If they're broken, they can be put back into the heat and they can be remade. So then says the Gemara, basar v'dam berucho shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that the human being, which was berucho shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu alachas kama v'kama, if a human being can blow air into a tube and shape glass, then you don't think HaKadosh Baruch Hu can blow air? Vayipach be'apav nishmas chaim. Kal v'chomer, ben beno shel kal v'chomer. If a human can create something with their own breath, of course Hashem can. Amar lehahu mina l'Reb Ami. There was a heretic who went over to Rav Ami. Rav Ami was a very, very early Amora. I think I've been to his kever. I think Rav Ami and Rav Asi are buried in, I want to say, Tveria, like near the Rambam. I'm pretty sure that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's the case. But they were very early Amoraim. Yeah, it's either one or both. It might just be Ravasi, but I thought it was both of them. What? No, that was Ravashi. I read that article. It was not. I'm pretty sure it was Ravashi. I don't think so. I'll have to check the news later. So he says to him, the heretic says, you guys say that those who are in the ground can become alive again. Right now they're decomposed to the point of powder. How can they be revived? So Rav Ami says back to the heretic, let me tell you what this is similar to. Lemelech basar v'dam, to a flesh and blood king. Sha'amar le'avadav. L'chu, uvanu li palterin gedolim b'makom she'ein mayim v'afar. I'm giving you a difficult task. I want you to build me a mansion, but I want you to build me a mansion without dirt and without water. Sounds similar to the Jews in Egypt, actually. So then the Gemara says, halchu vanu oso. They pulled it off. They got synthetics and they figured it out. At some point in the future, Naflu, the building fell down. So then the king said, and we're a quarter of the way down on Tzadi Aleph Amar Aleph Amar Lehem, Chazru Uvanu Osa B'Makom Sheyeh Shafar Umayim. Now I'm going to make it easier for my new castle, for my new mansion. I want you to build it out of materials that do build regular bricks with water and with afar, with dirt. Amru lo, they said to the king, Ein anu yecholin. We're not able to build a house like this, a mansion like this. So says the Gemara, Kasalen, rightfully so. The king was annoyed at them. He was angry at them. V'amar lehen, b'makom she'ein mayim v'afar banisem. When I asked you to build a mansion and you had access to zero water and zero dirt, you pulled it off. Achshav sheyesh mayim v'afar, alachas kama v'kama. You should be able to build a building. So that's why the king was upset. If you don't believe that it can be done, that a body can be rebuilt from dirt, say lebika, go out into the bika, go out into the valley. Ure'ei achbar, go take a look at this achbar. It's some type of rodent. It says here on the sides. As to what it is, some type of rodent. Shehayom chetzio basar v'chetzio adama. One day in its development, it's half flesh and it looks like it's half dirt. L'machar hishritz v'nasu kulo basar. So there you see that dirt is being used in order to finish growing something. Again, I don't know what this is biologically. Tomar lizman meruba. Maybe you'll say, yeah, but that took a super long time. Maybe that it took a long time. Says the Gemara, Allah lahar. Then you should go up to the mountain. First are the long lines on Tzadi Aleph Amar Aleph. Urei, you should see, Shayom ein bo ela chilazon echad. One particular day, there's only one chilazon. L'machar yardu geshamim v'nismalu kulo chalzonos. And when the water shows up, all the chalzonos show up. So it really just depends on the setting. Things can happen very quickly. And this was the end of that story, and we've seen it a few times now, that if a heretic or anybody else is going to ask, how can the bodies be rebuilt? Hooray, I'll just use our parlance, they've decomposed so much. So then the Gemara then says, don't worry, we'll figure it out. So I'm asking out loud, I don't know. Does that mean that a body that's been cremated, as long as there is afar, that they can be part of Tchias HaMesim? Seems from the Gemara that it's true. I don't know. That's what it seems like. I mean, if you scatter them everywhere, that may be a problem. But again, I don't know. Again, I'm not saying one way or the other. It just seems from the page that as long as we have the and maybe decomposition is different than the act of burning. That could be also true. I don't know. I'm just saying this would be a marimakom to look into the halachos of cremation and the implications as it relates to Tchias HaMesim. Amar leha humina legvia ben psisa. Gvia ben psisa was a yid. So this heretic says to him, "Voy lachon chayavaya." It's very bad for those of you who are chayav. Damrisun may say chayin, because you guys say that the dead ones become alive. The chayin may say, the may say chayin. Are you saying that the ones that are alive die and the ones that die are alive? Amar le, he corrects himself. Vai lachon chayavaya. De amrison, because you may say lo chayin, that your dead people will not become alive if they're chayavin. De lo hava chayin. So what he's saying over here is that I feel bad for the people who are chayiv, because if they die, they will not be a part of Tchias HaMesim. De hava chay lo kol shekain, all the more so if he's going to be alive, that he could likely die. Amar le chayavaya karisle. Why are you saying? Why are you saying that to me? Are you saying that I'm someone who's chayiv? So he says, if I do revive myself, ba'itna bach, I'm going to kick you, upshitna le'akmuscha minach, and I'm going to kick you so hard, I'm going to knock the curvature out of your spine. This is that's what the Gemara says. He apparently was a hunchback, the Rishonim write, that he was folded over a little bit, he had a bad back. I don't know. I don't know what the Gemara means. Sorry. Amar le, imata osekain, if in fact you kick me and fix my back, Givaldik. Rofe Uman Tikra. Everyone's going to say you're the new chiropractor in town. People are going to be banging down your door. The Schar Har Beitito. Very difficult, Gemara. We're halfway down on Tzadi Aleph and Aleph, 4 lines into the wide lines. Tanu Rabbanon. The rabbis have taught us in a brayso. Be'esrim v'arba'a b'Nisan, on the 24th day, Isnetilu dimun sa'e mi'Yehuda u'miyerushalayim. The governors were removed from Yehuda and Yerushalayim. There are different explanations of what this word actually means. Some say it just means challenging people. Some say it's talking about like political figures. Kshabau b'nei Africa, or Afrikaya to be more exact, Ladun, Im Yisrael, they came to battle. This reminds me of what's happening in the news. The South Africans came to complain about the Jews and their activities, right? So it says the Gemara, the Afrikayas came along and they wanted to make a complaint about the Jews, Lifnei Alexandria Mokton, for Alexander the Great. Amrulo, what did the Africans say? Eretz Kenan Shelanuhi. The land of Eretz Yisrael is ours, Dichsiv. And this is a pasuk in Sefer Bamidbar. And the pasuk says, Eretz Kenan ligvulo seha. Okay, so Uchnan avuhon dahanhu in shihava. And Canaan was the ancestor of Africa. Amar lahu Gvia ben Psisa lechachamim. Gvia ben Psisa this year he says to the chachamim, Tunuli rishus, give me permission. Ve'elech va'adon iman lifnei Alexandrus mokton. I'll be the one to answer Alexander the Great, Alexander from Macedonia. Im yinatzchuni, if they beat me, you can blame it on me. Amru hedyot shebanu nitzachtim. That's fine. But if I win this dialogue, then Amru lahem Torahs Moshe nitzchaschem. That really it's the Torah of Moshe, the one I don't need any credit, but I'm a good lawyer and I'm l'shem shamayim. So then Gviha ben Psisa became the lawyer in the court of those who of the Africans who came to Alexander from Macedonia. Amar lahem. This was Gvia ben Psisa's argument. Mehechan atem mevi'in raya. Where are you bringing a proof from? Amrulo mina Torah. They said we're bringing it from Chumash. They thought they were doing a great thing. They pulled something from Sefer Bamidbar. Amar lahen, so Gvia ben Psisa said, Afani lo avi lachem raya elamina Torah. I'll bring you a raya also from the Torah. Shenemar vayomer arur kenan eved avodim yelecha. You who say that you're the descendants of Canaan, and that's why you should have Eretz Yisrael. Well, you might want to do some Shnai Mikra Ve'echa Targum, because I know another pasuk that you're probably not going to like. If you're the descendants of Canaan, the pasuk says that not only are you Arur Canaan, but you're supposed to be my Eved. That was a great spin. And Eved Shekana Nechasim, if there is an Eved, let's say Canaan, who acquired a land, let's say they acquired Eretz Yisrael, Eved, Lemi, V'nechasim Lemi. Who gets the Eved and who gets the Eved's purchases? So one way or the other, it certainly belongs to the Jewish people. That was Gvia ben Psisa's argument. V'lo oda, not only that, Ela sheharei kama shanim shelo avadatuni. You haven't been working for us for years. You owe us back pay. You need to be slaves to us again. So could you imagine in the court of law? Amar lahem Alexandros.
This is what they should have done recently.
Yeah, it would have been amazing, except it wouldn't have gone over well in the court of public opinion. But nothing goes over well in the court of public opinion in America. What's the difference? So it says the Gemara, what was Alexandros Mokdon? What was his response? Amar lahem Alexandros Malka. Should be Mokdon. That's a mistake. Ichziu lo tshuva. No, Canaan. Afrikaya, give a response. He gave a great argument. You played your Canaan card, okay? And he played a much stronger Canaan card. He's got whatever the highest poker hand is. He's got one. Amrulo, they said, Tana lanu zman shloshi yamim. Give us a few days to come back. So the court was on break for a few days. Nasan lehem zman. 3 days later, Alexander Mokdon calls everybody back into Bezdin. But kuvalo matzu tshuva. The Afrikai, they couldn't come up with a response. It was such a good raya, they couldn't find a solution to it. So the Gemara says, "Miyad barchu ve'inichu sadosei hen kshehin zeros." The Afrikai, they left. They're like, shoot, we're stuck. We're going to become avadim if we stay. Let's get the heck out of here. They left their fields completely planted. The charmein kshehin netuos, their vineyards were lush and full with grapes. Ve'osashana shvi saisa baruch Hashem, and you're not allowed to take from your own fields. They had all of the fields from the Goyim that year, from all the Afrikaya. Another similar type of story, 2/3 of the way down. Shu pamachas bo b'nei Mitzrayim ladunim Yisrael lifnei alachsondros mokdon. The Egyptians, now it was their turn, and they tried to bring us to court with Alexandros Mokdon. Amrule, they said to Alexandros Mokdon, Harehu Omer, the pasuk says, V'Hashem nasan eschein ha'am be'enei Mitzrayim v'yashilum. What do we see over here? We see that the Mitzrayim, from the times of Yitzias Mitzrayim, they were upset. They were upset because the Chumash says that Kadosh Baruch Hu gave the grace of the people in the eyes of the Egyptians, and then they lent things to them. Tnu lanu kesev uzav shenataltem imenu. Please give us back. You took $100,000 worth of kalim. You took all my nice, all my nice frying pans, and you took everything from me. Amar Gviya ben Psisa lechachamim. He says, let me answer this one too. Tnuli rishos ve'elech ve'adun imam lefnei alexandros. So they pulled the southpaw out of the bullpen. Gviya ben Psisa was ready to go, and he had a one for one. He nailed the previous conversation. Nasnu lo rishus v'halach first words on the line, Lifnei Alexandros. And Gviya ben Psisa says to the Chachamim, Imi natzchuni, if I win, Amru lehem hedyot shabanu nitzachtem. If they beat me, not if I win, if they beat me, so then you could blame it on me. V'imani anatzeach osam, if I beat them, the Mitzrim, then Amru lehem Torahs Moshe Rabbeinu nitzchaschem. You can say that it's because the Torah is so beautiful. Perfect. So Gviya ben Psisa walks in. He's wearing the British curls, and he goes to play defense up for the Jewish people against the Egyptians. And he does the same thing with the Mitzrim that he does with the Africans. Where did you bring a raya from? So the Gemara says, Amrulo, Mina Torah, what do you mean? I did it straight from the Torah. What kind of Maramakom is better than that? You're a Yid. I'm bringing from your own book. I'm also going to bring one. You need to pay us for the slavery that we went through. You need to pay us for Shishim Ribo, for 10,000 units, namely for 600,000 men. That doesn't include anyone under 20. That doesn't include anyone over 60. Doesn't include women. It was millions of people in Mitzrayim. The Torah says we were there for 430 years, and every year you need to pay us whatever, I'm making this up, minimum wage, whatever that you owe us, a truckload of money. We were your servants for free. So you want to start talking Chumash? I've got a Chumash for you. So what do you want to do? It says the Gemara, Amar lehen Alexandros Mokton hachzir lo tshuva. So he says to the Egyptians, you guys are messing with the wrong people. Gviya ben Psisa has a Givaldic question for you. How do you answer it? Amrulo, the Egyptians said to Alexander the Great, Zman Shloshiyam, give us a few days. Nasan them Zman, and gave them time. Badkuv lamatzu tshuva, they couldn't find an answer. Miyadanichu sado, saying they left all their fields fully planted. Kshen zros. Uvecharmein kshen netuos, and their vineyards were planted. Ubarchu, they ran away. Don't mess around. Next, 12 lines or so from the bottom of the page on Sadi Aleph Amar Aleph, the Gemara says, "V'shuv pa'machas bo b'nei Yishmael uvnei Keturah," the children of Avram, they came forward ladun am Yisrael lifnei Alexandros Mokta, and they thought we were going to be the ones to bring the case against the Jewish people. Amrulo, the children of Yishmael and Keturah said, Amrulo, Eretz Canaan shalanu v'shalachem. Really, Eretz Yisrael belongs to both of us. At least that would have been a better argument than what they're saying today. From the river to the sea. Now they're saying that it only belongs to them. That's really not true. It belongs to both. Why did they say that? Why did the Bnei Yishmael and Bnei Keturah say that? Because the pasuk says, "Ve'ela told us Yishmael ben Avram, Muchsi ve'ela told us Yitzchak ben Avram." Seems like a level playing field if you look at the psukim. The psukim seem to say that we are the children of Avram, and so are you. Amar then Gviya ben Psisa lechachamim tnuli rishus ve'elech v'aduni man lifnei Alexandros Mokton. Let me go be the one to talk to them. Gviya, he's 2 for 2 now. So it says the Gemara, imi natzchuni, if they beat me, amru hedyot shabanu nitzachtem. If I lose, so just say we had one of our weak guys go in. We had one of our our Division 3 players. But v'imani anatzeach osam, if I win, amru lem Torahs Moshe Rabbeinu nitzchaschem. Then just say that the Torah that Moshe got at Har Sinai is amazing. I don't need kavod. I want to help the Jews. Nasned l'reshus halach v'daniman. Gviya ben Psisa goes into Bezdin, this time with the Bnei Yishmael and with the Bnei Keturah. Amar lehem, same halach. This guy's a one-trick pony, but it works every time because the Mari Makomos are real. Amar lehem, he says to them, Ehechan atem mevi'in raya. Where are you bringing a raya from? Amar lo min Torah. They said, we have psukim and chumash. Remember, their psukim were Eilu toldos Yitzchak ben Avram and Eilu toldos Yishmael ben Avram. So it says the Gemara, Amar lehem, afani lo avi raya el min Torah. And you guys ready to stop fighting? Because I'm going to drop the gavel. So what did Gvia ben Psisa say to the Bnei Ketur and the Bnei Ishmael? He says to them, Shenemar, Vayitein Avraham as kol asher lo liyitzchak. You thought you had access. The pasuk says, Mukaf Kvil. It's black on white. We know exactly what the Chumash says, that our history goes through Yitzchak. Avram's history goes through Yitzchak. This is one of the reasons, as we saw earlier in this Masechta, why there's no din of bris milah by a ben Yishmael, because it goes through Yitzchak. And also believe Pilag Shemasher Lavram Nasan Avram Matanos. So says the Gemara. Says the Gemara then, Av Shenosan Agitin Levanav B'chayav. If there's a father who gives gifts to his children, V'shiger zeh me'al zeh, and gives one to another, Klum yesh la zeh al zeh klum. How could it be that that Yishmael could ever ask a question? The pasuk is so clear about what actually happened. Then the Gemara says, Ma'im atanos, what were the presents that were given, that Avraham gave to, as the pasuk says, that Nasan Avraham atanos. What were the presents? Amar Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba melamed shemasar lehem shem tuma. Rashi, shem tuma, on the outer margin where Tosfos normally is. Rashi says, last Rashi on the page, kishu fumaisa shedem. So here, this is a bit of a problem, because why did Avraham know how to do it, and why did he give it over as Yerusha to his kids? Why did he give it as a matana? So some of the Rishonim learn from here that kishuf is only asr for Yidden, which is a little bit of a fascinating thing. But that's what the Gemara says, because he gave those gifts. There are other Rishonim who hold that what Avram gave them was actually a little bit different, and it wasn't exactly what Rashi says, but not for now. 4 lines from the bottom, 3 lines from the bottom. Amar le Antoninus le Rebbe. Gufu neshama yecholin liftor atzman min adin. The guf and the neshama could each absolve themselves from din. Ketzad. Guf omer, the guf can say, neshama chatas. It's my soul that did the sin. Shemi yom shapir shemi meni. Whenever there is no soul in my body, hareni mutal ke'even domim bekever. I don't move without my neshama. I'm a nothing without my neshama. So the guf says, leave me be. Uneshama omeres, guf chata. Shemiyom shepirashti mimenu, from when the neshama has left the body, what behaviors does the neshama do? Hareni porachas ba'aver ketzipor. I'm floating like a bird. I'm not doing any averos. So the guf tried to absolve itself and blame it on the neshama, and vice versa. The neshama tried to absolve itself and blame it on the guf. So Rebbe says back to Antoninus, Amar le em shalachal mashal ma davar dome. Allow me to give you something to think about. The melech basar v'dam shahaya lo pardes na'eh. There was a flesh and blood king that had a beautiful orchard. V'haya lo bechoros nos. Turning to the top of Tzadi Aleph Amud Beis, and he had many bechoros nos. Rashi in the place of Tosfos on the right. A lot of Rashi's not a lot of Tosfos in Agarata. Rashi says, Te'ene habechoros, these are young, ripe, or barely ripe te'enim. V'hoshi bo shnei shomrim, and he hires 2 shomrim, echad chiger, one of them couldn't walk very well, v'echad suma, one of them couldn't see very well. Amar le chiger lesuma, bechoros nos ani roa bepardes. The one who's a chiger had perfect vision. He couldn't walk, he was handicapped, but he could see. And he says, I see these beautiful te'enim, these beautiful figs. Ba v'har kiveni unevim la'achlam. So says the guy who's a chiger, he says, I can't walk, but I can see. You can't see, but you can walk. Put me on your shoulders. Ba v'har kiveni unevim la'achlam. So you come on my shoulders, I'll tell you, walk over here, turn right, watch out for this step. Rachav chiger al gabe suma v'evim la'achlam. So then that's what they did. The guy who couldn't walk got a shoulder ride from the guy who couldn't see. Liyamim, after a while, Ba'ala Pardes, the owner of the orchard, showed up. Amar Len, Bechoros knows Heichanein. What happened to all of the dates, all of the figs, that you were supposed to watch? Amar Lo, Chiger, the Chiger says, Klum Yeshle Raglaim Halech Bahen. You think I could walk from the gate that I'm at all the way over there? That's impossible. I can't get that far. Amar lo suma klum yesh li einayim liros. I can't see anything. Even if you're right, I can walk, but I have no idea where I'm going. So ma'asa. So what did the guy do? The Baal HaPardes. He said, "Here kivchiger al gabe suma v'dano sam ke'echad." He says, "You guys are two peas in a pod." I know exactly what happened. The blind guy carried the chiger, and says the Gemara, that's exactly what happens over here, and that's what Rebbe says back to Antoninus when Antoninus said that the guf and the neshama could each try and absolve themselves from the crimes that they've done. Afa Kadosh Baruch Hu mevi neshama v'zorka beguf v'dano sam ke'echad. That when a Kadosh Baruch Hu places a neshama into a guf, they are judged as one unit. Shene'emar yikra el hashamayim me'al ve'al ha'oretz ladin amo. Yikra el hashamayim me'al zu neshama ve'al ha'aretz ladin amo ze haguf. Beautiful. That's story number 1 with Antoninus and Rebbe. That brings us to the next one. Amar le Antoninus le Rebbe. Why does the sun rise in the east and set in the west? So Rebbe wasn't having it. Amar le ihava ibcha nami hachi hava amrsli. Had it been reversed that the sun came up in the west and it set in the east, you would have asked me the same exact question. Can you please get to the point? It says the Gemara, Amar le Antoninu said back, hachi ka'aminalach. What I mean is as follows. Why is it that it has to go down in the west? Says the Gemara, elakadein litain shalom lekona, so that it can give shalom to the kona. Shenemar utzva shamayim l'chamish ta'achavim, to show us that the sun is giving kavod, the tzva shamayim, those that reign in the heavens, that they're able to give kavod to the Eibishter. Amar le v'teisiat palgadirakiv v'titain shlama v'teil. So let it be that the sun's pattern would be that the sun would go straight up to the middle of the day and then dart off in another direction. Why does it have to go all the way down and set in the west? So says the Gemara, Rebbe says back to Antoninus, Mishum po'alim u'mishum ovrei drachim. It's good for the people who are workers and good for the people who are travelers. They have to get home at the end of the day. A little bit of sunlight helps. It also shows us that they didn't live in places where the sun never set. Sometimes at the poles, sometimes in places that are far away from the equator at certain times of the year, they actually don't get a lot of dark and or a lot of light. And our third story, Amar le Antoninus l'Rebbe, Neshama me'emasai nitna be'adam. When is the soul placed into the body? Great sugya in regards to abortion. When do we determine the moment that the child is actually considered a child, halachically? So says the Gemara, do we say mishas pekida o mishas yitzira, from the moment that the embryo is created? What's mishas pekida, mishas yitzira? Yeah. Is it Mishas Pekida from the time that the Zera is there, or Mishas Yitzira from the time the Vlad is created? Amar le Mishas Yitzira. Amar le, Antoninu says back, Efshar Chaticha Shel Basar Omedesh Shlosh Yamim B'lo Melech Bein HaMisrachas. How can that be? It takes many days for there to be implantation. How can you say that there's nothing there? There has to be something there. Ela Mishas Pekida. You're right. It's from the very early phase, let's say post Tashma Shamita, that there's some type of neshama there. Amar Rebbe Davar Zeh Limdeni Antoninus. I learned this from Antoninus. I was wrong. Umikra Misayo. He has a pasuk. Shene Amar. The pasuk says, this is a pasuk in Iyov. Ufkudasecha Shamira Ruchi. So here we see that the ruach is put into place by the pekida. And another story, Amar le Antoninus the Rebbe, Meimas hayetzahara sholet ba'adam, mishas yitziro, mishas yitzia. When is it created? From the time that the human is created, or from the time that it exits into the world? Amar le mishas yitzira. He says it must be from the time they're created. Amar le imkain. If a baby in utero had a yetzahara, boed b'mei ima v'yotze. What do you mean? This was like Esav. It's a little bit of an interesting shaila because Esav Taka did have this, because we know the story that when she would pass by a place of idol worship, he was already knocking down the walls of the uterus. He's like, get me out of here. So says the Gemara, Ela must be Mishas Yitzia. Amar Rebbe, Davar Zelam Deni Antoninus, and Mikra Messiah. I have another thing that's helpful for him, says the Gemara, Lefesach Chatas Rovetz. And that for us teaches us that at the Pesach, that's when the Yetzer Hara is Rovetz. We'll have to stop right here at the last of the short lines by Reish Lakish. Tomorrow we'll go through a host of psukim that sound like stiras, and we'll find some answers for them. In the meantime, try not to reject Tchias HaMesim because it's a bad idea. Doesn't end well. Wishing you all a beautiful night.